What's good with the YouTube? You already know, Big Flacco with a convict's perspective, and I'm going to smash, dash, and slide on through with that little bit of energy. Good morning, everybody, man. So check this out. Before we start, as always, hit the like button, comment, subscribe, man, help support the channel. So today, man, I came across a very interesting article, man, and a lot of times I don't like, reading the article. I like to go off reference off the top of the head, but this article was pretty good. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, like anytime I got to do a disclaimer, anytime I'm reading an article, but this one goes into a lot of details regarding the Operation Devil Horns, which is one of the most notorious takedowns in Northern California of a Sureño gang, which involved, I think, the MS-13, 20th Street, and a lot of Sureño subsets, man, and it's pretty detailed, this account, man. And let me first give credit that I got this from History of Yesterday, this article, and I'm going to start it off right now. On October 22nd, 2008, 300 law enforcement officers fanned out across the San Francisco Bay Area. Using armored trucks, 16 separate SWAT teams raided the homes of those affiliated with the notorious Mara Salvatrucha MS-13 gang in the Mission District. After terrorizing the streets for nearly a decade, 42 gang members were apprehended without a shot fired, bringing a 4-year-long undercover operation to successful conclusion. The Operation Devil Horns would ultimately bring the policy of sanctuary cities into question, while highlighting the magnitude of MS-13's reach into the United States from Central America. The 20th Street Gang and MS-13. In the mid-1990s, a group of young Salvadorians in the Mission Playground District established a street gang near 20th and Mission Streets. The gang regularly engaged in terms with the rival Norteño gangs, which consisted of Mexican Americans. In June 2004, following the shooting death of Luis Memo Fuentes by a Norteño, a delegation from a Los Angeles-based gang, the Pasadena local Sureños, came to offer their assistance to the beleaguered Bandilla. The Pasadena local Sureños were a chapter of the notorious Mara Salvatrucha gang, which sought to establish its own clica in San Francisco. Mara Salvatrucha, street tough Salvadorian posse, emerged from the ashes of the El Salvadorian Civil War of the 1980s, starting as bands of young men in Los Angeles Rampart neighborhoods. The group homogenized with the clicas to form a transnational empire from Canada to Central America. MS-13 quickly became notorious in the Americas for widespread brutality, apart from simple murder. And in one such case, an MS-13 member, 17-year-old Brenda Paz, was butchered to death in Shenandoah County, Virginia, after she was discovered to be an informant for law enforcement. Paz was 4 months pregnant at the time. A year later in Honduras, the Mara made international headlines after gunmen massacred 28 passengers on a bus in Chamalekon with AK-47s. 6 of the passengers were children. By the mid-2000s, MS-13 had approximately 10,000 members across the United States. The Mara left its mark in San Francisco, though the 20th Street Gang with approximately 140 active gang members. In 2004, the newly formed Homeland Security Investigation, HSI, began monitoring the 20th Street Clica in and around their turf. The first phase of Operation Devil Horns, named for the Mara's devilish iconography, involved agents with the HSI and San Francisco Police Department recruiting informants inside the gang. In one case, 5 gangbangers were hauled into ICE on immigration charges. Once in detention, a Honduran-born Mararero turned informant got them to open up about the gang's whereabouts and hierarchy. The informant, 1301, later walked the streets among the clica, gathering information about their activities and their homies' locations. In exchange for tips and intelligence, the informants received thousands in compensation, along with opportunities to receive work permits inside the United States. Said individuals lived double lives as informants for the police and gangbangers at war with the Norteños. One such individual, Jaime Mickey Martinez, committed multiple felonies from car theft to firing a loaded weapon while acting as an informant. As the number of informants grew, so did the efforts to monitor the Clica's inner network. Informant 1301, for instance, daringly wore a wire while his HSI handlers listened in on a meeting with the gang's leadership. In Reno, Nevada, one informant infiltrated the home of a leader of MS-13's Reno Clica, the Locotes Sureños. The informant's handlers used his information in a phone call to leader to plan the disruption of the Mara's Reno-San Francisco gun racketeering scheme. In Richmond, an undercover California Highway Patrol officer operated a storefront to sell stolen cars. Gang members would sell the undercover officer the cars and receive $2,000 to $3,000 per vehicle, unaware of the cameras hidden in the storefront. Wow, this is getting interesting. The program was soon abandoned. However, the 20th Street Gang became aware of the sting after seeing a similar setup on the television program To Catch a Thief. The agency managed to net 8 gangbangers on federal charges of exporting nearly 20 vehicles. The political battle. Although efforts had been made in the post-9/11 world to get federal agencies to cooperate, old rivalries between FBI and newly HSI agents still reared their heads. As Ray Bolger and HSI agent Michael Santini note in Chapter 21 of their 2018 book, Operation Devil Horns, the takedown of MS-13, based on his experience in San Francisco, Santini, believed the FBI functioned more like a rich bully, throwing lots of money and equipment at law enforcement agencies, then swooping to steal the glory whenever an investigation was already developed to the point of imminent success. Early into the operation, HSI agents met in Washington, D.C. to request more funds and support for Devil Horns. Agents also sought chief prosecutors at the Department of Justice to bring detained suspects to federal court under the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. Passed by Congress in 1970, the RICO Act explicitly targets criminal enterprises and imposes federal penalties on those engaged in organized crime. Those arrested would be detained until their indictment under RICO, ensuring their transportation into federal custody. The operation also recruited veteran prosecutor Laura Gwynn, who had spent years going after MS-13 in Washington, D.C. Gwynn's presence was essential for the Department of Justice Organized Crime Review section to consider pursuing RICO cases against those to be arrested. After much deliberation, all agencies in Washington, D.C. agreed to fund the operation. The murder of the Bologna family. By 2008, investigators began targeting key players in the 20th Street Clica. The arrest of Marvin Psycho Carcamo and Angel Peloncito Guevara, for instance, created an immediate power vacuum within the gang. Psycho was a known leader of the Clica, and the latter was a feared hitman with at least 3 murders to his name. Nevertheless, the gang still ran rampant in the streets, and Devil Horns entered a new chapter come March. After another gang war erupted between the 20th Street Gang and the Norteños, bystanders Ernad Jodik and Philip Neig were gunned down while parked in a car on Persia and Athens Street. They had become mistaken for Norteños and became unintentional targets. The gunmen, Eric Spooky Lopez and Edwin Popeye Ramos, were booked on felony weapon charge. Ramos was later released by the Office of the San Francisco District Attorney Kamala Harris, which purportedly found no evidence that he knew his Lopez was armed. On June 22nd, 3 members of the Bologna family, Anthony and his sons Michael, Andrew, and Matthew, were ambushed in a drive-by shooting in the Excelsior district. Anthony, Michael, and Matthew were killed instantly, and Andrew was critically injured. Once more, the victims were the mistaken target of MS-13 hit on Norteños. The gunman, Edwin Popeye Ramos, was arrested 3 days later. San Francisco's sanctuary policies was immediately brought into the spotlight after it was revealed that Edwin Ramos was an illegal resident from El Salvador with multiple felonies, as was his fellow gang member, Spooky Lopez, who was from Guatemala. The fact that he had been released without charge by District Attorney Kamala Harris' office garnered more outrage. On July 22nd, Tony Bologna's wife, Danielle, took her family's grief to the air with Fox News' Megyn Kelly. When pressed about then Mayor Gavin Newsom's failure to report Ramos' illegal status, Bologna stated Newsom's office had not reached out to her and that more could have been done on her part. As the press team of Mayor Newsom went into damage control, the final stages of Operation Devil Horns were finally implemented. Takedown. Shortly after the Bologna murders, the HSI dispatched 18 separate teams to monitor the comings and goings of nearly 30 gang members. On the legal front, Laura Gwynn summoned 27 witnesses before a grand jury to present indictments against the accused. After the local San Francisco newspaper recorder published an article finding connections between the recent arrest of the 20th Street Gang, the agencies decided to speed up the process before their cover was blown. On October 21st, 2008, 300 law enforcement officers assembled and were briefed in the hangar of Moffett Field. The force was broken down into 16 separate teams consisting of 20 law officers each. The force also boasted 3 MRAP armored trucks in the event of a full-scale gunfight. At 5:55 a.m. the following day, the force moved out. Among the first targets to be neutralized was the Ivan Tigre Serna, one of the older leaders of the 20th Street Gang at 34. Serna surrendered without a fight after a SWAT team raided his home on Hemlock Avenue. The remaining 41 members on the target list also surrendered without a shot fired. Almost as silently as it started, Operation Devil Horns came to an end. Months after the final sweep, the San Francisco Chronicle reported an overall 20% drop in violent crime with a 60% drop in homicides. Of the 42 arrested in 2028, 24 were indicted on racketeering charges under the RICO, which included 6 murders since 1995. Among those charged was Ivan Tigre Serna, who pled guilty and received 25 years in prison. In total, 7 MS-13 members received life imprisonment, while the remaining 20 received sentences ranging from 7 to 35 years. In 2017, a similar operation, Raging Bull, netted 267 MS across the United States and overseas. I'm going to have to look into that one. In particular, observed coast-to-coast arrests from California to Denver to Maryland. I'm going to look this one up. Although the weekend from the 2008 operation, the 20th Street Clique remains active in San Francisco. As recently as 2020, federal authorities apprehended 17 20th Street Gang members in San Francisco in a sweep similar to Devil Horns. Many informants remain in hiding and anonymous for fear of MS-13 reprisals. It's a really interesting article, man. Shouts out to the writer of this article. Who was? Let me give him some credit real quick, man. Oh, man. Grady Boulding. This article was written September 16, 2022, so it's a new article as well, man. Operation Devil Horns. I was locked up with someone back in, not locked up, I was in a program with someone out there in San Mateo that their boys got indicted on this, man. This was a serious case, man. And there was a lot of scrutiny at that time. If everybody remembers, over the sanctuary cities, deportation, and whatnot. And San Francisco, being a traditional liberal city, had to do a lot of damage control. You know what I mean? Their investigations are pretty much, only when they feel it's necessary. And I think the factors of this case was that the unnecessary murders of, innocent victims, people that were not gang members. Because I remember that was the key part of everything that was going on. That's where Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom and so forth were being questioned, man. I never really knew the back history as far as how MS-13 got out to San Francisco. But if anybody's from the city, along the Mission District, right, there's a lot of different cliques, right? A lot of different subsets, as well as there's a lot of different ethnicities. You're going to have a lot of Salvadorians, Nicaraguans, Honduras, all that stuff. It's a hub for the diverse ethnicities, as well as your regular Mexicanos. I remember as a kid going out to San Francisco with my homeboy Spike from 18th Street. Yes, he was from 18th Street, San Francisco. And anybody that's old school will know what I'm talking about, because there was a split between 18th Street back in the days. Half of them became Norteños, half of them became Sureños, okay? And he lived in San Jose. His brother was from Los Locos. So we'd go out to San Francisco. I was like, 14, 15 years old. And we'd go kick it with the cats from 11th Street. Now, back then, they were brown priders. They had yet to become Sureños. They were just regular raza that were out there in the streets that were like gangbangers and just were kind of new to the country at that time. And I remember as a kid, man, posting up, me and my homeboy Lubick, and, man, who else were we with? Spike and Lubick's brother Roman. And so we're kicking on the corner, and out there, man, there's nowhere to fucking run, right? Where we're posted up at. And out of nowhere, a fucking van pulls up on us, man. And I'm like, fuck, we're about to get blasted or something, right? Because last time we were out there, fucking my homeboy Spike shot at some dudes when we were out there. So out of nowhere, fucking they just jump out the fucking car. It was fucking gang task force. It was a well-known gang detective at that time in San Francisco called Hams. And I remember they snatched me up. They fucking threw me against the wall. They threw everybody. And they were literally talking about how they had arrested one dude over there recently with fucking grenades and all kinds of crazy shit. I'm like, man, these motherfuckers don't play. And then out of nowhere, these motherfuckers, Detective Ham, anybody from Frisco knows who I'm talking about. I think that's his name, Ham. I remember this as a kid because they were talking about him. They told me and my homeboy a little bit, we don't know where the fuck we're at in Frisco, to start walking a certain direction. We're like, we don't know where we're at. We don't give a fuck. Get to walking. We get to walking, man. So that culture somehow changed somewhere around that time, man, where, the Sureños started to be more, relevant out there. They weren't out there as much at that time. And that's where I kind of started seeing changes because next time I talked to my homeboy, he goes, like about 3 years later, he goes, yeah, they became sureños and stuff, man. So a lot of these clicas that were out there, they weren't traditionally sureños. Someone had to bring that influence and start that, and I think a lot of it was from with 11th Street was that they were just going at it with Norteños, so they naturally became sureños. And this 20th Street, MS-13, whatever clique I write, what I found interesting about this article is it talks about Pasadena. The subset went out there specifically to establish them and give them reinforcements. I never knew that. This is the first case that I've seen that's pretty much been put in publication that I know of where a Sureño subset went up north to try to take things over. Now, there's been certain hoods that have had ties to Southern California up north, but that's because someone moved out there. You know what I'm saying? This article wrote it in the sense that, they sent people specifically out there, and which is something that the MS-13 have always traditionally done, man. As much stuff that they got going on in the state, not in the state, in the feds, for a while there was a lot of inner workings amongst their group. You know what I mean? And San Francisco, man, is the one place where you can get away with so much shit, man. You can get arrested, for drug possessions, a gun, and be out the fucking same day, believe it or not. They wouldn't charge you. I mean, homeboys used to come in when I was in San Quentin on fucking robbery charges, burglary charges, and they'd get fucking probation violations, man. They hardly picked up any cases unless it was a gun, really, that was used in the shooting, homicides, and cases of that nature. All the other stuff, they weren't picking up. Nah, Anyways, this also article shows about the ability to network. They weren't just fucking doing business with, those within their local fucking barrios and community and surrounding cities. They were going all the way to Reno, you know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure that they had more communications everywhere else, man. When it comes to these RICO acts and federal indictments, you never know the magnitude and the severity of the cases that they present, because a lot of times the media will start to embellish their stories. They'll put a 10 out of 1, man. But the MS-13 was really active out there in San Francisco, man. And I always kind of wondered what were their roots. For a while you heard about them, but you didn't know about them. And then out of nowhere, their presence was known out there. They were starting to be seen, representing and pushing that line. And a lot of it has to do, like I said, with they have a large population of those from Central America. Therefore, they're going to gravitate and fall under the umbrella of a lot of gangs that are similar. The 18th Street gang that's out there, which I kind of died down in San Francisco. I don't know about Daly City, but those were not had no ties to Los Angeles, from my understanding. Those were all just hoods that were established at that time. And this is just like any other indictment, man. Like, think about how many indictments that we've read, me and Rojo, over the years, man. It's the same fucking story, man. That's where that gang lifestyle is going to bring you. There's those that want to have the ego to be recognized and look down upon the hood, and the end result is a 25 to life sentence. You may have a good run out there till you're like maybe you're in your 30s, like this one individual Tigre did, but eventually it's all going to catch up to you, and just think of all the times of going in and out, and for anybody out there that's in the mix or, on the fence, these stories need to be recognized that, look, man, look at the end result. It's told time and time again, man. And that's why we used to like to read these articles, because it just, the more we push it, the more understanding the listener can get that, look, man, if I come out and I get back to engaging in criminal activities, if I get out there and gangbanging, this is what the results are going to be. There's nothing else but these type of results. So take heed to what I'm saying on this, man. This ain't the only indictment that they've had in San Francisco. There was also a lot of other subsets that were indicted later on. You know what I'm saying? They were like one of the main, like I said, the main indictments that I've seen up north one was in San Jose, one was in Atwater, and one was in Sacramento and San Francisco. These were all the indictments that I know of where Sureños were indicted up north. Now, if you notice in this whole case, there was no tributes to the MA. So I don't know if these individuals were kicking in to the MS-13 down in LA, to the ones in Central America. I don't know. They have a whole different type of gang structure, this group, And look at the back history of MS-13, man. They're known to be treacherous, man. So a lot of times, man, this could have been just something that was taken care of themselves and their families, man, because that's what a lot of these gangs do, man. They come over here, they establish rackets sometimes, you know. A lot of people just come out here just to work too, though, and they help out their home country, their family that's over there. You know what I mean? That's just, it's instilled in them to do what they can, because when they're living in these countries, man, as a family, you have to do the best of your ability every day to contribute. So you don't forget that. Those are qualities that are instilled in you. Whether you're living a life of crime, or going legit, these are the expectations, man. You know, it's kind of hard over there. So like a lot of times people don't realize that they're coming from a whole different country where the rules are different, and they're trying to adapt that in today's society over here in the United States, while at the same time being true to themselves. You know, it's a fucked up life, man. But that's how gangbanging goes sometimes. With that said, it's your boy Flacco, a convict's perspective, man. Hey, check out all the other videos I got, man. I dropped a lot yesterday. Not a lot, but a couple videos. It was Sunday. I had a one, man. Fuck, it was pretty good, man. Shady. You know what I'm saying? Shady, he was an 8-tray crip, man. He did a good fucking spill, man. You got to tap into that one, man. You know, and I also brought in someone from No More Science to Violence. You know, excellent lady. She gave a good interview. And I also brought some stuff up that was going up in Susanville. So tap in, help support the channel, help support the push.